Hello, welcome. I hope you're doing absolutely excellent today. I have um a, a bit of a new video style today. I'm going to be working on this drawing here that I did a little sketch for, and I'm gonna try and yap on. We'll see how it goes. You guys are gonna know if I had to edit massive chunks out of my talking because the drawing is gonna skip points. Um, if I don't finish it, like if I run out of stuff to talk about before I finish it, I will just finish it and then post it at the end of the video, so you'll get to see the finished piece. Um, so without further ado, I guess we'll get started. I'm working on a sketch here of three League of Legends characters. I'm gonna do Aurelia, Riven, and Fiora. They're doing like a little group photo, I guess you would say. Um, so today I want to talk about being a gentleman, like what that means to me, what its significance is, and what I think some important points to make are. So, firstly, I think that like it's a synonymous to a Renaissance man. I think a Renaissance man is really the perfect comparison because the idea of a Renaissance man is like it's like taking all taking a lot of different qualities like your interests in art, your exercise to work on your body, your interests in like manual labor stuff, like learning how cars work, plumbing, all those things. It's all of them combined into one whole. I think that's what kind of defines a Renaissance man. Like you you're like advanced in some way. You have all of these different qualities that come together to like raise you up as opposed to other people. And it takes a lot of work to be that type of person. You have to put in a lot of time and a lot of energy to become that. I think the other important facet of being a gentleman is apart from like self work, is being a family man, having your focus of your everything you do, I think, should be somewhat focused on your family. You should be the person that young boys look up to. They should look at you and say, that guy, he loves his wife, he loves his kids. You can just you want people to be able to just look at you and how you talk and see that you like they're your pride and joy, right? And I think that's really should be a huge goal because who why would you not want to be that? Why would you not want to be like a loving, compassionate, kind person who values the relationships that you have? I think young men today, especially, have a problem with, you know, they deal with stress by internalizing it mostly. And that's kind of um, a somewhat well studied gender trait is men tend to be counter dependent or they internalize their stress and struggles. And I want to break the notion that that's what we're supposed to do, because it's not at all. Um, that's going to, having a counter dependent outlook on your life is going to make every relationship you have so much harder. So I think that today we have, like I said, um, a lot of young men who maybe don't have the strongest moral compass, or they didn't have a father growing up who was able to demonstrate the kind of people, the kind of man that they should grow up and be. It's kind of upsetting the amount of kids that we have today that don't have fathers. Um, and I think that there's a lot of contributing cultural factors as to why we don't have very gentleman-like young men coming up. I think that religion kind of, there's less of a focus on religion now. And I think that that definitely plays a role, because I think that religion indirectly and directly models like the ideal person. Uh, I know for me, I grew up going to Eastern Orthodox church, and I saw men there. I got to grow up around men who just absolutely loved their families. Like they would do anything for them. That was their pride and joy. Their most important thing to them at that point in their life was their family. And um, that is like growing up around that, and growing up and those men like looking out for the whole church community and coming together to do yard work, rebuild stuff, all like the seeing that mentality, that community building and love and just reliance on each other, that is that's why I think church is that's the value that I think comes from church, is the community and the demonstration for people growing up. So the church definitely had a big influence on me, and I think that people that go to church generally have a better outlook on life, and they have a stronger moral compass, and they're more compassionate, because just those values have been drilled into their head from going to church, right? Um, so I think when I talk about gentlemen, those values uh, is at the are at the forefront of what I'm talking about. I see a lot of young people, more young men than women, who just wearing sweatpants and hoodies, their hair's just in a complete mess. And I I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. It's, you know, they they dress like they don't have any respect for themselves. And I think that that makes you less respectable. If you look at someone and you can't see that, if they're not demonstrating some form of self-respect, it makes it a lot harder for you to be what this is a respectable person. And I think that that's a big thing that I want to talk about, is how you need to you need to make yourself presentable to go out into public. You don't have to dress like I do for these videos. You don't have to wear a suit every day to look put together. I mean, just throw your t-shirt in the dryer before you put it on so it's not covered in wrinkles. Tuck it into your pants. Get a nice pair of pants. You know, there's a lot of comfortable, like poly blend dress pants out there. Look into it. Try and find some. I'm going to make a fashion video at some point, and for anyone who's interested, hopefully that'll be helpful to you in some way. But dressing well, being well groomed, slicking your hair back, whatever, just put yourself together a little bit, and you're going to notice that people treat you differently. When you look respectable, you look put together, people are way more apt to talk to you. The amount of conversations that I have started just because of the way I dress, like I can't even count all of them. And if you can dress nice and be kind and compassionate and like outgoing at the same time, you're going to, people are going to look at you. They're going to be wow, this person is they're so put together. They look good and they're super nice. They're super awesome to be around. That is like, that's the ideal, right? And then when people look at you and think those things, you want to have so many different interesting subjects to talk about. And that's where the other part of being a oh my goodness, Renaissance man comes into the picture, because you should understand how things work, understand math, science, language, be able to speak eloquently. There's all these different factors that go into it, and they all play into each other. So you can be like the most awesome person to interact with ever. So you can be super interesting, fun, funny. That's my point, is like, I'm just trying to tell you some things that I've figured out that help you be a good person, help you be a kind, loving, interesting person. I think a big thing is, for the young men out there, is get a job, go work hard, give that job your all. I want to like put pressure on you to find a job. It doesn't have to be a career. I mean, you're young, you have a long time to find what you want to dedicate yourself to fully, but find a job and go to work every day with a smile. Take pride in what you do, so that when people ask you, when people come up to you and start a conversation, you can say, yeah, I'm so and so. I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm getting really good at it. I love it. I love my coworkers. And you can tell them all about your job, all the things that you do, all the things that are unique about it, why it's so great. And if you look at your job with a positive light, and you go in and you work hard every day, and you save up money, you're going to have money to do something else. You're going to have some money to fall back on to do what you really want to do. But just getting out and working is incredible for your physical and mental health. Actively going to a job having something you're committed to on a regular basis is really, it's really, really positive. So that's um, that's a big point that I want to make. You know, it's gonna, if you can talk about your job like it's something positive, like it's awesome, even though you don't necessarily love it, it's gonna be easier to, you're gonna feel more confident in yourself because you're gonna start looking in your job for all of the good things for to talk about, all the good things to think about, so that you can convey that to other people. And I think that that is quite a positive factor. uh, to everyone who's watching this, uh, I may be like absolutely like brain brain dead, like brain numb, trying to talk about stuff because I'm drawing. Um, I know that when I talk to people, I usually talk more fluidly while I'm drawing and talking. So I don't know, in post, um, I may need to like just scrap this video and re-record a voiceover. We'll see. So, you know, I'm gonna come back to like a couple points about how to be a gentleman, a Renaissance man, a family man, what I mean saying these. You know, be a kind person. Hold the door, look for people who are struggling, and offer to help them. Do anything you can to ease somebody else's burden. And you're going to end up getting, I guess, in some sense, like a street cred. Except your street cred is going to be the super sharp dressed guy who's super sweet and helps everybody. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? You'd have to be like, there'd have to be something wrong with you to not want to be that kind of person. Go ahead, get mad at me in the comments, but I really do think that's true. Um, uh, I think um, we should have, as men, as gentlemen, we should have some sort of obligation to provide and protect our families, our loved ones, even though gender roles are shifting quite a bit. I think that that's a really important one to hold on to and really value. I watched this podcast recently, or well, listened to this podcast recently, from the channel's Diary of a CEO, and he was talking to a divorce lawyer about marriage. And marriage, like, um, marriages where the man didn't have a job and wasn't the provider was like extremely damaging to the man's mental state and usually led to divorce, if not very severe marital issues. And I think there's, in some way, um, men often feel like they should be the provider. Um, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that, especially in Christian teachings, it's like the man is the man's like the rock of the family, like the foundation. Um, you need to be strong in all that you do so that your family can fall back on you, rely on you. And I think that that's important to value. Um, and that's why I talked about your job, why it's important to like your job and take pride in it, even if it's not necessarily the long term job that you want to have, or if you completely are in love with it, whatever. Um, there was a YouTube video I watched a couple months ago. If I can find it, I will definitely put a link to it. It was like a 10-minute video. It was this artist talking about like building habits, and he was talking about using 3 level goals to do it. And the basic idea of 3 level goals is, so you have something that you want to achieve. I'll just say it's drawing for an hour every day, which might have been the example he used. And then you have the next level, which is your second level, which is your level 2 goal would be drawing for 15 minutes every day. So when you're struggling and you can't get yourself to do your 3 level goal, your level 3 goal, when you just don't have it in you to sit down for an hour and draw, whether you're too busy, too tired, whatever, you can try and draw for 15 minutes. And maybe someday it's just so terrible and you need to fall back on your level 1 goal, which is just drawing, like opening your sketchbook and drawing a couple lines, just doing something. And this is an incredibly useful tool to build habits, because you're going to be able to stay fully committed to whatever you're trying to do. You have some easy version to fall back on in every instance. So you have no excuse not to open your sketchbook every day. There's no way you can, unless you like get in a car crash and break both your arms, there's no excuse as to why you can't open a sketchbook and draw a circle every day. And if you just open it every day, eventually you're going to work up to being able to do an hour every day. And you're going to have bad days when you're at that point, and you'll be able to fall back on your level 2 and level 3 goals. This can be applied to absolutely everything. Like exercise, for example. I think that exercise is extremely important. It's really one of the healthiest things you can do. It's great for your cognitive function, your sex drive, your physical ability. It increases your baseline energy amount, so you have more energy to do things on a day-to-day basis. I'm not gonna plug research into that. If you're interested, there's like a million research papers, and also, I mean, countless YouTube channels talking about this stuff, because I mean, there's a massive exercise industry. Like the exercise industry, the gym industry is insanely large, and all the people, not all the people, but a lot of the people making content are really knowledgeable and can elaborate on this information to a degree that I, of course, cannot. But you can apply the 3 level goal idea to exercise. You can set up a program. Maybe your ideal is working out 5 days a week. Your level 2 is 3 days a week, and your level 1 is just getting to the gym, doing it 1 day a week. And you can have like variable exercise plans too, where you might have a set of core exercises that you do, And so maybe for each different workout day, you have 2 exercises, and then you do like a bunch of different other exercises. Like maybe you have 4 other exercises that are up to you. You know, you pick which ones you want to do that day. It You have to build up a bit of a knowledge of how to do exercises and what exercises there are, but then you can be so flexible that it's impossible to get bored with working out. And if you can't get bored doing it, it's way easier to stick to it. And then if you're having a bad day, you just do your core exercises, your main couple exercises, and you skip all of the other ones that you do for fun and to stay engaged. There's all these, like, everything that I'm talking about is only healthy in moderation. If you start to do these things and do them obsessively, it can become unhealthy very quickly. When I was younger, I got completely obsessed with exercise, thinking like I needed to be the biggest, fittest guy that I could, and I'm just not built to be that person at all. Like I'm built to be like a calisthenics lifter, whatever. Like skinny fit guys. That's my build. That's just the genetics that I have. But I was obsessed with being like huge, and we me and my dad would work out together. We built like a little home gym. I would do 7 days a week, uh, or 6 days a week, always adding something new, like just absolutely pushing myself. And I don't, there's not really a benefit to doing that. It's not going to really help you all that much. it's it led me into some dark places where it was it took more confidence away from me than it brought me, having that unhealthy relationship with exercise. um so I guess my point is just be careful, be thoughtful of how you push yourself, what you do, so that you don't end up getting obsessed with becoming something that, if you obsess with any one quality of being the Renaissance man, you'll never become the Renaissance man. You'll never become the ideal gentleman because you got caught up with one stage and forgot to look at the big picture. So I talked a little bit about like dressing well, and how it makes you look like somebody people want to talk to. There's a lot of ways to dress well, and I think that art can help to influence your style taste. Like once you understand a bit of color theory from art, you can use that to build outfits. And that's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. You'll see when you start learning different things, researching into different things, doing more things, and really committing to understanding them and what's going on, you'll see that they all interconnect and they all overlap in some way. And everything that you learn is going to help you in some other thing. It's like diversification. I think that that is really the one of the main points here. Like, diversify yourself. Go and do something, try something new. Try something that you would absolutely never try for any reason. And you might find out that you love it. Like, it's just like for me, like a couple years ago, I took a poetry class, which, I mean, I like to write, but okay, I take that back. I don't really like to write, but I'm not bad at it. Um, I'm fairly well versed in writing. It comes to me pretty easily. My mom is a poet. She has some published work. So she convinced me that I should go to this poetry workshop. So I went to it, and it ended up being a incredible experience. There was a group of people there, ranging from like 17 to 65. There were six of us, and we did all these interesting exercises for poems, and we would come every week, and each person would bring a poem, and it would be workshopped. Like, it would we the person whose poem was being workshopped would not get to talk. They just have to sit there and listen to everyone try and figure out what it meant, and then the discussion would be opened up, and they everyone else would be able to ask the main poet questions about their poem, and they'd be able to elaborate on its meaning, and then you could discuss with people how you could convey your meaning more concisely based on the questions they had. It was an awesome structure, super well thought out. It worked extremely well. It would be so cool to have a some kind of art program that worked that way. I think that would be awesome. Um, but everyone there was so sweet, and so they just wanted to learn more. Everyone was kind of shy, kind of not super outgoing, but because we were, because of the nature of the workshop, it forced everyone to be somewhat outgoing, and that was really cool. I learned a lot about um, I learned a lot about those people through their poetry and through their discussion, and that was just uh, it gave me a perspective and a value to poetry that I never had before. And that's pretty cool. I mean, that's what happens when you try new things. You end up getting some new value in your life that you didn't have before. Um I think I can't remember if I said this already, but men tend to be counter dependent. They tend to push things inward instead of being interdependent and sharing what they need to and working it out with uh, the people that care about them. And I think it's important to understand interdependence, because interdependence, you depend on other people when you need to, but you also are highly autonomous. You have your own individual interests, you have time alone to look inward and analyze yourself and think about all the things that you want to work on, all the things you're doing well. Uh, I think it's really important to take a bit of time to really look at yourself. Because if you don't look inward, you're never going to really know yourself. We live in a culture that's so online and so afraid of looking directly at ourselves that a lot of us don't really know who or what we are. And I think that that's just terrible. I think there's countless benefits to the digital world, but I think that that is one of its biggest shortcomings and its biggest failures. And, you know, in looking inward, I think that artists do that a lot. So I think that that gives us artists an edge on everyone else. A lot of artists struggle with some kind of mental health challenge. And I think that that in some way makes them a good artist. It gives them, I think that art in some way is an expression of suffering. Um, there's there's like meaningful art, which I think every artist does, and there's also the fun kind of commercialized art that every artist does. And what I'm doing right here, this is the fun commercialized art. I have portfolios of the meaningful art that I've done. And maybe that will be, in the future that will make an appearance on the channel. I think for now, I want to stick to this, stick to commercialized art because it's easy to monetize. It's easy for people to get behind it, like fan art. People already know these characters, so it's easy to get them interested in looking at them. And when people, if you can get people hooked on your art style using characters that already exist, when you shift to um, when you shift to your original art, people they'll follow you because they're following you. They started following you for your style, and they found you because of what you were drawing, and then they'll keep following you and get more attached to you because of your original work, what helps you differentiate from other artists. I think it's important to not get stuck just doing fan art forever, because I think a lot of artists, I know I do, have a yearning to express some kind of meaning. And if you get stuck just doing fan art, it's really difficult to do that. And it's going to lead you to burnout way faster than if you were doing, you know, uh, I think burnout is something really important to talk about here in just everything that I've talked about, the Renaissance man idea, the gentleman. If you do not do this, if you do not work on yourself, your body, your mind slowly and patiently, you're gonna burn out and you won't achieve anything, any of the goals that you want to. Burnout is like the artist's worst nightmare. It's when your stress is too high to comfortably cope with, and you just lose motivation to do everything. Like, even if you completely love what you're doing, you lose motivation to do it. And then you just have to take a break from working on everything that you're working on. But we can fairly easily avoid burnout in the first place by taking a slow, steady, healthy approach to growth. Growth is something that takes time. I mean, it takes 25 years to from being born to being fully developed in every way that you can, in every way that your body and mind develops. Uh, that doesn't happen till like mid 20s. So why should you be able to completely change the person that you are overnight? You can't. It just doesn't work that way. You can start exercising overnight or eating better or getting a good night's sleep, but it takes months to build that habit, and it takes months to work up to the point that you wanted to be at when you started. It, there's it's has to be so slow and so gradual, or it just won't work. And I really want to emphasize that to anyone who listens to this video and thinks about, maybe you just want to change one little thing in your life. You want to do better at one little thing. Take it slow. Sit down, think to yourself, where am I really at with this thing that I want to work on? And what is realistic for me to achieve my goal? What is a realistic timeline? And, find your realistic timeline and then like add a couple months to that, because you're always going to think that you have more time than you do to do something. And there's like two main types of people. There's type A and type B, which is, there's some truth to the model. I really don't think it sums up humans as a whole, but it kind of, in the lens of stress and how you deal with stress, I think it's good to understand the difference between the two and kind of look at yourself and see which way you lean, because it'll help you figure out what to do in certain situations and how you handle certain situations. So it's the type A and type B personality, where type A is, they want time urgency, they want time pressure to function their best. They're kind of like high stress functioning individuals. They can get very irritable, very aggressive under high stress, but they're also extremely efficient. And I think I'm definitely a type A person. Like, I create time urgency on myself to get things done faster. Which, if you understand what you do and why you do it, it's makes it possible to manage it in a healthy way. And then type B is, they're a lot more passive people. Stress doesn't, it doesn't have a big effect on them. Like, they're very indifferent to stress. They have a really high stress tolerance before they get irritated. They can function better Um, yeah, I guess it's more like they type B people, it's harder for them to burn out. They're more like slow and steady, like the slow and steady wins the race idea is like the rabbit in the race would be type A and the turtle's type B. Um, so I think that, like I said, if you can understand which way you lean and how that influences your behavior, you can manipulate it to serve you better. Um, and I mean, I can talk about all this stuff, but I do not have it all together by any stretch. Like, I am not the ideal man. I am not a perfect individual. um, I just, I like thinking about it and I like looking inward to figure out what I can work on and what I'm already good at, where I'm really struggling, and trying to modify my behavior and attitudes based on that. And if you that's really the key to all of this, the key to learning and being a better person and being interesting is looking inward and knowing what you need to work on and what you're doing great at. If you look inward and you just look at what you need to work on, you're going to end up being depressed and like incapable of normal functioning because you're going to be so caught up thinking you're terrible and useless. And I do not advocate for anyone to do that. Please don't. um, for me, like, I think this stems from being more of a type A person, but I have quite a, I can be quite irritable. I have kind of a temper. It's it's interesting. Depending on the situation, I'm either a extremely patient, like could never get irritated person, or like the most irritable person you've ever met. Um, and like my family and my girlfriend for tolerating my extreme irritability, uh, they are just awesome people for that. Like, I don't know how they could be around me. But my point is, I'm not perfect. I'm not the ideal person in any way. Um, I've just learned a couple things along my journey so far that I wanted to share. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Um, with that, I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Please take care.